Good evening. I'd like to call this Town of Star Valley Ranch work session to order. It is Tuesday, January 27th at 6 p.m. We have all council members in attendance. Let the record also reflect we have Town Administrator Aiken and Town Clerk Hurd. We also have Town Engineer Welling is also here, and he'll be up on the agenda a little bit later. For now, to get things going, could I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I motion that we approve the agenda.
It's been moved by Councilman Bitter. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilman Merrill. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, moving right along. The first item under discussion items is the administrator's update. So, Mr. Aiken.
Well, I think I need to address a concern that was brought to me today. I appreciate what the council, the mayor does, and there are 4 members of this council that support and help in a lot of ways. There's 1 member of the council that has consistently interfered in the day-to-day operations and caused a lot of problems in my job, and I received an email from Councilman Merrill I want to address today about dealing with employees. So this is our town council handbook. And on page 15, I would like to read ethics, and in parentheses, as elected officials. I'll read the whole page here. It is the policy of the town of Star Valley Ranch to uphold, promote, and demand the highest standards of ethics from all its officials, whether elected to council or appointed to advisory boards. Accordingly, all members of town boards, committees, and the council shall maintain the utmost standards of personal integrity, truthfulness, honesty, and fairness in carrying out their public duties, avoid any improprieties in their roles as public servants, comply with all applicable laws, and never use their town position or powers improperly or for personal gain. Elected officials are bound to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Wyoming, and to carry out impartially the laws of the nation, state, and municipality, and thus to foster respect for all government. Elected officials work for the public and hold office for the benefit of the public. Elected officials are responsible for setting the priorities for the municipality, and the employees have the knowledge and experience to make their priorities a reality. Elected officials should always show respect for the expertise of employees and avoid undercutting their efforts by ignoring the evidence-based solutions they propose. In a council-managed / administrator form of government, the town administrator is the chief administrative office of the town and has responsibility for the day-to-day operations of all employees. Council needs to be sensitive to the role of the town administrator and employees. Council shall work through the town administrator when discussing matters with the employees. So I'm not trying to create any extra steps for anyone, but I am in charge of the employees, and the council needs to work through me when addressing issues with the employees. So, that being said, is there any questions on that I could answer?
How am I interfering with your day-to-day operations?
Well, there are several things that you have done.
I would like you to specify, please.
Okay, I can give you a more comprehensive list at a later time if you'd like, but there are times when you have interfered with dealing with other entities such as school buses and places like that. There's
You
been
need to
public
specify
criticism.
on that, please.
There's been public.
Criticism from what?
I'm supposed to deal with the bus barn. It's a day-to-day issue.
I didn't call them.
You told me you spoke to a bus driver after I had.
When they were stuck on Vista and I was driving by them.
I understand, but you interfered. You also interfered with Avail when they were here on the corner. They had a complaint against you because you came out and made an issue about a bus.
They actually didn't have a complaint. It was 2 years ago, and I just asked if they could park on the other side.
That's not what Avail said. Okay, you interfered, you caused me a lot of problems. I had to have meetings with their supervision because of your actions. That's something I should address because it's a contract we have and it's a day-to-day operation issue.
And we discussed that.
Well, not to my satisfaction.
2 years ago, we didn't discuss it.
No,
since
not to
then.
my satisfaction, no. So you interfere consistently in what I do.
How is that interfering?
Because I had to take time out of my schedule to go meet with people and to set things right. It really agitated them and they were very upset. So, and it took some significant time
The bus driver didn't seem upset when I
I'm
was.
talking about Avail, so let's stick on one thing and not move to another. But there are a lot of things with employees as well, okay? So I would ask you to stop interfering with the employees. You came down and you talked to Jim Rogers about a citation he had issued over a week and a half
He
ago.
was
and-
in,
Hold
I
on
was
here.
asking
I
you a
just read the
question.
policy that says you work through me. It created an atmosphere of intimidation and fear for him. He was afraid for his job. And there are other employees that have the same feelings as well. So if you don't realize what
why
you're
was this
doing,
not mentioned to me earlier?
I am mentioning it right now for your benefit in a public meeting, because you said in your 3 years in your email, you've never known about this policy.
I didn't actually.
Okay, well, you should have. This is the manual we all live by.
I hope not, because it's lacking highly.
Well, if you would like to offer assistance, come and help. The other 4 members of this council consistently offer me assistance instead of just criticism.
I
I'm
asked
gonna-
a
I'm
point
gonna
of
jump in
information,
here.
point of information, please. I was asking Jim.
And the reason
for-
that I allowed Administrator Aiken to read that this evening was a direct result of your email wanting proof of any policy that established the fact that the council needs to work through the administrator if you want to set up time to talk with employees about specific issues. And that is why he read that this evening. So, can we move on to the next topic, please?
Absolutely. The plows from Craig that we have ordered, one is finished, one was supposed to be finished today. They promised us, now that's not my promise, but it's theirs, that the plows would arrive on Thursday with the technician to make sure they work with our loaders. So, it's interesting, we haven't had snow, but they should be
Thursday.
here.
So
Yeah.
now that let it snow? Is that
Well,
what you're saying?
Well, it's a
I don't know, but-
50% chance tomorrow.
Okay.
So that's good news there. A little SCADA update, we found some issues with the internet there, and we have purchased a Starlink account. It'll be fully installed tomorrow, and just hooking it up, it appeared to work very well. It more than doubled our internet speed with just having it sit on the ground, and it made our SCADA system work much better. We had a final meeting with SCADA, Simply SCADA tomorrow, but they moved it to next Wednesday. Reason being, what we've asked for is they take all the meters coming in from the wells in the spring, and they can add that number together. So it's much easier for us to get a monthly total, and they think it'll take them an extra week to get that set up. But that's moving along very well. Just an update on the road grant. Zach Edwards is working on that, and what he's doing right now is plotting the GPS coordinates as part of the grant. And we're gonna ask for a substantial amount of money. Grants are very tough to come by, but if we got it, what we plan to put in there would give us funding to pave everything from Vista North. So unlikely you get those grants because they're very competitive, but we're shooting for the stars on this one.
No, we won't know unless we apply, so.
So is
And
it an all or nothing, or do they come back and say, we'll give you X?
I believe it's an all or nothing, but it's a big grant. The minimum dollar amount you can request is $1 million.
Yeah.
So we're just working through it to decide if we should do 3 pieces or 1 piece. And we haven't quite figured out those details yet.
Okay.
And lastly, we have been in contact with an attorney named Thane Peterson. He actually was a recommendation from our engineer, who has agreed to represent us for the annexation process. So I'm trying to work as I get time to set up what he needs and work through that agreement.
It's good news.
Can you repeat the person's name, the attorney?
Thane Peterson, he's out of, I believe, Lyman, Wyoming.
Okay.
So,
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, any questions for Administrator Aiken? Okay, moving on, next item on the agenda, we have Mr. Andy Hernandez is here from Jen Simpkins. Thank you for making the trip, and
Yeah.
he's gonna present the 2025 town audit.
I feel like this thing's a long time coming, so.
A little bit of a delay this year.
Yeah, well, there was some that wasn't our fault. They typically, we had to, because the town received more than, and spent more than $750,000 in federal awards this last year, it triggered a single audit, which we'll talk about. And typically they release that supplement usually May, sometimes June, but this year it was like the week before Thanksgiving. So you couldn't even issue an audit until then. So we did get an extension, so technically we're not late yet, so it's not due till February 15th, so. Anyways, we'll get started. My name is Andy Hernandez. I'm an audit partner at Jones Simpkins, based out of Logan. I've been with the firm for 18 years, been doing audits the whole time. Myself and another partner, Jason, we lead out in the government space, do a lot of governments, especially in Wyoming, so thankful to be here, grateful to be the town's auditors, and yeah, thankful that we feel like we have a great relationship with Trevor and Loretta and the team here, and feel like they're doing their assigned duties very well. And I also want to give a shout out to Wade Hershey. He comes in and does some consulting. That allows us to have a clean report we'll talk about later, because if the auditors come in, which happens on a lot of my smaller governments, and we have to make material audit adjustments or propose those to be made, you automatically have a material weakness. So it sounds worse than it is, but it's based on, do you want to have that expertise in-house or not? So Wade coming in and consulting, getting all those entries made, makes it so we have a clean report. So shout out to Wade and the good job he does on the consulting. So just want to talk for just a brief second about the audit process. A lot goes into an audit. So we have to tie out every material balance sheet item to the GL. We tie out the liabilities. We tie out what's called fund balance or net position, which is like equity in a private company. And how we do that, different methods, but we confirm where we can. So like we confirm all the investments that you see in here and cash balances with third parties. I sent out a ton of confirmations to SLIB on all the debt, make sure all those are complete, that we haven't understated any of those debt items. So we do confirmations. We also look at the source documents, the ledgers leading up to it, and test those. So when we find something that is material, like the different fixed asset additions for the water supply projects and things, we test certain transactions all the way down to the source level documentation and make sure that that fixed asset or capital asset gets recorded properly in the system. So we also are required as part of an audit to gain an understanding of internal control. And what that means is in order in the US, under US auditing standards, in order to do a compliant audit, you have to understand internal control of the entity. So how we do that is a variety of different things, but the main thing is we do walkthroughs. So at our firm, we pick what we call the significant transaction classes, which is typically based on volume at most firms and our firm as well. So we did a walkthrough of payroll, cash receipts, cash disbursements, and what I mean by walkthrough is we got a complete population of all the cash receipts or cash disbursements that were made during the year, picked one of them, completely haphazard or random, and walked it through the accounting system, from the initiation, authorization, all the way down to recording in the GL, and didn't notice any instances of non-compliance with town policies or procedures. That we just look to make sure that everything's followed, right? That nothing in that transaction is amiss or wasn't following policies. So, and that was clean. We didn't see anything there. So it's a little bit of what goes into an audit. A lot goes into it, and that's why.
Andy, do you normally use one sample, or do you do 5 or whatever?
Yeah, so for our walkthroughs, we just do one.
One.
Because in order to get, it'd be kind of a nerdy discussion, but in order to get my control risk down lower.
Sorry, I'm an accounting nerd.
Yeah, in order to get my control risk down lower, I'd have to test
Okay.
30 or so. I'd have to put it on a
Alright.
sampling form and get way low, but
That's fine.
so
I was
we
just
don't do
curious.
that. We just test one to gain the understanding. We also we also would document any of those findings we had in the process at that point. So a couple. Let's just go over some things here. There's 3 reports this year. There's usually only 2 for the town, but we got 3 reports. That's what you guys are paying us for here. So the first report is just the independent auditors reports. That's on page 1, and what that does is that's where the auditors give our opinion on if these financials are materially correct, meaning we believe there's no material adjustments or any these financials as presented here are correct. There's no, all the balances are correct. There's no instances of inaccurate reporting. So we believe we have a couple of opinion units in the town. So when you're in a government setting, each fund that's major and each type of activities, your governmental activities for your general fund in this case, and then your business type activities for the water fund are all opinion units. So we give 4 opinions, and those were all clean, meaning that we believe these financials are correct. So the next couple pages of that report, that auditor's report, it does a really good job of detailing out what the auditor's responsibilities are for the financial statements and then what management's responsibility is for the financials. Because we are engaged to draft these financials and put them in a presentation allowable under GAAP, under US guidelines, but it really is the town's numbers, right? We're draft them, we present them, but it's your numbers. So, and that's why we send it to the town council for comment and edits if necessary and that sort of thing, because they are your numbers. So, yeah, that's the auditor's report. The second report is on page 66, and this is what we at the firm refer to as the Yellow Book report, or the government audit report. And what this report talks about, it's a report on internal control over compliance and financial reporting. So that is where on other government clients that don't have Wade or someone coming in or a CPA in-house or something, don't have financial expertise in-house and don't have any consulting, you would have a finding in that report. That's where we say, is there any material weaknesses? Or if we found, or significant deficiency if we saw something during the audit process, right, during our testing. So that report again is clean, meaning we didn't note any instance of non-compliance. We didn't have to propose material entries. So that's a clean report as well. But that report was on 66. And then this year, we have a third report on page 68. And what this one I'll go over a little more in detail because it's new this year, and I doubt we'll have it next year. We'll have to see what kind of funding we get. Like Trevor mentioned, there's grants out there, and you could get them, and then you're right back in. So when you spend it, for next year, it's going to go up to $1 million. But last year, if you spend more than $750,000 of federal funds, it triggers what they call an audit under uniform guidance, or a single audit, people refer to it as. And what that means is each of the federal programs are given an ALN number, an assisted listing number, and in that number, it ties back to this compliance supplement that's released by the Office of Management and Budget, and it tells you if they spent more than $750,000 in that program, here's the compliance requirements and testing you have to go do. So that program that we had, it's detailed there. Let's see. So if you go there, if we had any findings as we did that testing, in that case we tested all the transactions because there wasn't a ton. If there was tons, we just put it into our sampling form, kicked out maybe 30. But here, there were some big invoices, so we were able to test them all. So that that program number is 21027, the Coronavirus State Local Fiscal Recovery Funds. Mm-hmm. And so there was specific guidance published by OMB that we had to follow and make sure our testing was in accordance with that and see if there's some of the compliance requirements. There's a matrix, but some of them were allowable costs and allowable activities, meaning were the funds spent on allowable costs and activities. There's some on reporting. Did you report correctly back to the federal government? There were some compliance requirements on the fixed asset side of it, your capital asset side of it. So we had to test all those compliance requirements. And in that testing on page 71, we were very specific and detailed, saying we didn't find any instances of non-compliance. And so that report for that federal fund audit, if you want to call it that, like the single audit we call it, it was clean as well. So we didn't find any instances of, monies being spent on things that were unallowable or not in accordance with that program. Programs are very specific. So.
Did you say that for next year that threshold is $1 million?
Yeah. So effective October 1st this last year, it went up to $1 million. With all the inflation and stuff, they upped it, but that wasn't effective for fiscal years ending 6/30. Sure. So we tripped it. What's funny is it was less than $1 million, but lucky you guys. It was less than $1 million, but I mean, it was like 850 or 900,000 if I remember right. So that triggered the single audit. So, but typically I haven't seen that report at the town for a while. So, yep, that would be a new report that if you were looking at last year's financials, you'd say, what is that? And that was a report based on that requirement for that federal funds audit, if you will. So those are the three reports. Again, all clean. Town's doing a great job managing the funds and adhering to the requirements. And so last thing I'll touch on in my presentation is, so the Governmental Accounting Standards Board issues the standards that these financials have to be reported in or under in accordance with. And when I started the firm, there was 54 standards 18 years ago. And I remember gasping 54. I remember being a young guy and reading up on it. Well, now there's 103. So as you can imagine, they've almost doubled in 18 years. So what we do at our firm, and we make sure that we look at each standard that's coming down the pipe every year, down the pipeline, and we make sure that if it applies to the town, we get it implemented. So there was one, it's not singled out specifically at the town of Star Valley because it didn't end up being a material amount, but there was a new one on compensated absences, or to be more specific, like your sick leave, your, that's paid out on termination, or your paid PTO. So, in some of my government clients, it's resulted in a huge change. Here it didn't, but we still implemented it and made sure it did increase it a little bit, but not enough to get special attention in our reports. But every year, like I said, myself and Jason, we go through, look at all the standards, we train our firm on them. We go to RCP on government auditing standards and make sure that if any applies to the town, we get it implemented. So that was the only one of any significance that we had to implement this year, but we're always looking out for the town and making sure we get those standards. And when we do implement those standards, we follow the implementation guide that is put out by GASB. So we make sure we're in lockstep with that guide. Let's see. Really, I don't usually spend a ton of time going through the financials because, like I said, they're your numbers, and you guys have done a great job with your feedback. There was a couple emails I received with really good questions, detailed questions, and I hope I responded to your.
Yeah, you responded very thoroughly.
Yeah, I was
I've never seen
trying to
an
be-
auditor respond with that many words.
Yeah,
before,
so I try to be really thorough with the response back, and always looking for questions. Honestly, this is, for the size of Star Valley Ranch, this is a quite, and most of the time I send out government financial, I don't even get a question back, but I appreciate the input, and I think that helps us collaborate and get to the right answers. And there was one change I made where I had a maturity schedule, didn't have the right dates on it. The numbers were fine, the date was wrong, I updated that. So everything looks good that way. Last thing I'll say is if I had 10 minutes and I was a concerned citizen of the town, I would read the MD&A section, the management's discussion and analysis piece. It's like the first 10 pages, but that is the only place in a government audit or government financial statements where you have comparative information. And it just does a really good Reader's Digest summarized version of everything you're gonna see in the rest of it. So I would just read that if I had 10 minutes or was really concerned and go over that, and that will give you all the highlights of the town. It even looks out into forecasting in the future a little bit. Everywhere else in a government financial is single year presentation, so you don't get that comparative information. But yeah, there's a lot of notes in here. Those are all required based on what's in your financial statements. Yeah, there's, like I mentioned, you can see all the water fund activities in the financials by themselves, kind of in a silo, because it's its own opinion unit in the general fund as well. So, yeah, I don't know if there's any other questions for me, if you guys are ready to move on, but that's all I have.
Do you have any questions?
Yeah,
Yeah.
any recommendations or issues coming out of the audit?
No, I think the town is doing a good job. Everything has to be looked at, in my mind, through a cost-benefit lens when it comes to, internal controls and things. And I feel like the town did a good job in segregating duties of certain personnel where they can and where necessary. It's a flag to an auditor if someone has too much control in the financial reporting process or the accounting process, or if someone is allowed to, say, cut a check and sign a check. So the town, I believe, has got the proper controls in place. We got those duties segregated where we can, and yeah, I don't see any recommendations at this time as far as the internal control structure. I mean, you get to bigger companies sometimes, and they have way more formal processes and policies when it comes to financial accounting and reporting. But I think for what we've got and the employee base here, we're doing a good job.
Okay. Any other questions from the council?
Just two items of interest for you that you brought up in your epistle here.
The epistle then.
Number one is on the water systems over assets. We'll let you know if we want you to do a little more deeper dive into that, because again, I don't think relying on one person to give you the answer is probably not the way to look at that, because we
Yeah.
have so much money tied up in those assets.
Right.
Let's get it right so that we know what our system is worth.
Yeah.
And if there's write-offs, we'll get them written off. The second one is the water rates modeling tool. We'll let you know on that as well,
Okay.
if we want to use you guys to review
To
that.
to review that and see what's going on there. Yep. I mean, honestly, based on the debt, the water fund's incurred over the years for those different phases of that supply project, the different supply projects, you always have to be looking at your rates and
Yes.
making sure you're gonna at least cover your costs, right? Your depreciation, that's the cost of replacing the assets, and then your debt repayments, right, and all those different things, so.
The next couple of years will be our most expensive years, and then it drops off. So, we're,
You get ahead of
yeah,
the updates at that point, that'd be good.
taking a look at it. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you very much. I
So-
really appreciate it.
If you guys get it approved, I will make the final and get it sent off to the state of Wyoming and all those parties that need it, so.
Okay, sounds
Okay.
good, thank you. And then for, just for the public, a copy of the audit is posted on the town website, and at least the draft up to this point, and once the final is finalized, we will put that on there as well, so. Alrighty, next item on the agenda, is the a request for a street light at the corner of Cheyenne Circle and West Elkhorn. And this was a request that was made during public comment at our regular meeting last month. We, at the time, since it was made in public comment, let the resident know that we would discuss it at this work session, so that's why it's on the agenda. For the council, I did forward a couple of emails of concern from other residents in that subdivision who were rather strongly opposed to adding a streetlight at that corner. I did go look at our town ordinances, and in the outdoor lighting, as far as streetlights or light poles are concerned, it does specify for the commercial zone and for the multifamily zone. It does not discuss having light poles in the single-family residential zone. So I just wanted to make sure we had it on the agenda and see if the council had any thoughts. In the event that the council thought there was merit to doing this, then we would need to run it through the planning commission and go through a whole public comment process so that we could notify neighbors and bring through a formal process. I just wanted this to be an opportunity for initial discussion to see if the council had any initial thoughts about it. Anybody?
Sure, you want my
Sure,
thoughts?
yes.
I'm down here
Please.
at the end, I'll continue. The question, it's a slippery slope. I hate using that phrase, but it is, because where do you stop, right? And again, are we gonna put streetlights on every street? And again, I think if you ask the residents, you'll probably have 50% opposed at least, and 50% or less, you know? So it's one of those things, unless there's a clamoring of people that come and say, we need this for security reasons or safety, I think we just leave it where it's at.
Okay. Any other comments?
I agree with Wade. I think the security is huge, but if there's not a bunch of neighbors saying, yeah, this is something that needs to happen, and I would propose that Mr. Robertson, if he has neighbors that agree, to bring that back to us, but the dark skies is a big push right now, and having dark nights, and I know it's gonna come up a lot more, and education, so, and I'm more on board with that side of things than I am adding streetlights.
Okay. Any other comments? No?
Your ordinance says it all.
Yeah,
No
it's-
person, firm, or corporation shall install or erect.
Yeah. It's kind of funny, we have, when we talk about ordinances in a little while, the outdoor lighting ordinance was, there were just changes proposed to it by the planning commission, so it's
Yeah.
just kind of ironic that it all came up at the same time. I don't agree with adding streetlights in our single-family residential section. I'm more of a dark skies proponent too, and we're trying to work gradually towards more of that in the town. I think most folks that live here, at least from feedback I've gotten, they prefer not to have as many outdoor lights. And I know with our short-term rentals, sometimes that's been a problem that's come up about too many lights being left on, so not hearing anything that would motivate me to say we need to bring this through the planning commission, unless, as you mentioned, Councilman Toulson, Mr. Robinson, and/or other neighbors that want that, want to come back with that.
But you got two neighbors that have already
Said
been
no,
opposed to it.
yes. And there's some other ones in the audience that are also opposed that talked to me beforehand, so. Okay, thank you, good discussion. So we will leave that as is. All right, the next item on the agenda is the Mountain Estates annexation, and I really appreciate Ryan Welling being here in person. We thought maybe you might have to be on Zoom, but it's always nice to have you in person. Town administrator and I spoke with Ryan last week, and he had some really good insight about annexation in general, and then he has also provided an update after reviewing the current annexation petition, so just thought it would be timely for him to kind of walk us through process and then any specifics on what he's written up for us so far, which was sent out to the council.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, you're all aware that the town received an annexation petition for Mountain Estates, not to be confused with Sunrise Mountain Estates. So, and that's right here, in this portion, just north of Vista.
Yeah, and for the council, I'm
Mr.
sorry, we
West?
have binders with all the petition information and the maps and things in it that you can refer to just for.
So part of that petition required a annexation review, and so for my part of it, I looked at feasibility with regards to water and roadways, and kind of looked at roadways a little bit beforehand when we were looking at the access to Vista West, so most of that was just look back at what I'd already done, so no redos, but essentially, we looked at what the potential could be. So if you looked in that petition, it had quite a few maps that came along with it. The one that we're most concerned about with right now at this phase is the preliminary plat accompanying the petition application. The other maps that are looking at all the lots, those are master plan maps. They're not finalized, they're not plats, there's nothing concrete into that. So we're looking at that master plan as a concept, but not as any sort of set in stone subdivision or plat that we're looking at. But that's good information to have when we're looking at what the potential could be for what the town might be looking at in additional revenue for water and impacts. Along with that, we looked at, if the developer can add in the well that they have there, what that does to the impacts, if they can meet the maximum day demands that they've projected out for that development, what reduction in the impact fees could look like. Things looked at as what the potential max build out of that area would be of base rate users of a quarter inch connection, what the one-time connection fees could be looked at, just kind of as an overall look at the system. I also was asked to review some documents pertaining to moving forward. If the town decides to move forward, how do we go through with that? And we started off a little bit, let's say, cart before the horse a little bit, looking at annexation and development agreement at the same time. Because we have a plat of just the area, we're just looking at, I was trying to think about with my wife the other day how to explain a little bit, but so you have a family and you've got your designated restaurant you go to. You decide to add one new restaurant in. Consider this property as just adding a new restaurant in. Once you go to that restaurant, then you have to go look in the details of what actually is on the menu of what you want to look at. So you're adding that option, but you're not committing yourself to a certain meal or a certain thing. So right now, I'm looking at annexation. You're annexing that whole property, and then if that happens, the developer would go through the subdivision review process with planning and zoning, and at that point we would look at development agreements, or when they do that, they would be looking at submitting final plats and going through subdivision review with planning and zoning and final construction drawings for more in detailed review of things. Any questions?
So I just want to make sure the council is tracking. So the first step should the council want to adopt the annexation petition, is this. It's the land parcels. It is not this. This is subsequent steps that would have to go through the
Planning
planning
and zoning,
commission
and then
and the
council.
town council for improvement of each phase of development. So that was, I think when I was looking at it before, I was looking at this, and it was a lot to
And
digest as far as the process.
It's a new thing for the town, because the only other one they've had is the Sunrise Mountain Estates. And because that was so small, the developer had it platted and construction plans ready for review at the time of annexation. And so we did that all at once. Annexation and development, it's all at once.
Sorry, let me just go back to that picture, because we have buildings already incorporated on this.
You have one building.
Mhm, Yep,
right?
One
So
fourplex.
yeah.
my understanding is if we're looking at this from the beginning at this, we're considering the townhouses, and that what the county commissioners have already allowed.
No.
There's
the
no platting that would have been provided, no final platting. So before we accept anything, we need to have final platting and subdivision review.
So the way we understand it after talking with Ken Kolesky, who's the Lincoln County planner, is that there is a conditionally approved master plan with the county, which is, this.
Right.
Conditionally approved. And it's being approved, and there's been development agreements with the developer for phase one and partly for phase two. But this entire thing has not been platted, and, if you go to the county's GIS and look it up, it still looks like this.
But if you annex the land, right, that means you have responsibility now for the things that are on the land.
Yes.
Which would be not only the fourplex, but the water well, right? Am I misstating that?
You don't have a responsibility for it yet. It's still under the ownership of
The
the
development.
developer.
So the liability would.
Until there's a
potential
subdivision
liability.
review and you have platted roads into that, you don't have any
Okay.
responsibility.
All it's really doing is moving the municipal boundary to encompass
Gotcha.
those parcels.
Yeah.
Raw land.
Yeah.
So why isn't it platted currently though? then?
Because right
Because
now,
of the
we're,
contingency that isn't being met?
what's that?
Because of the contingencies that aren't met yet by the county?
Probably, I'm not sure.
No,
There-
no, the reason it isn't platted yet, to get a plat, you have to have all improvements complete.
Yeah, that's what I mean, like the things that
Yeah,
they
so,
have listed.
no, not the contingencies, the full structure. You have to have all the infrastructure, everything complete before it's platted with the county.
But aren't your townhomes completed?
The first townhome is complete, I have a permit for that.
But they're not platted.
They have to be platted, I have to actually have the last thing to plat would be to pave that. So as soon as I pave that, then it can be platted.
And that's
none of
just for
those-
that phase.
It's that, and then that, yes, because it is phase one that I have agreement with the developer agreement with the counties. I have phase one with the multifamily, phase two with multifamily, and then phase one with residential.
But only if those contingencies are met, correct? That they have
That's,
listed.
I have to make the contingencies to get a final plat, you have to do all the improvements. So you can't, no matter what, you can't get anything platted unless you put all the improvements in.
Right.
Does that make
So there-
sense?
So there's multiple stages in platting.
Correct.
There's preliminary, or there's sketch plats, preliminary plats, and that's where you kind of get your approvals to go through for. And then once your improvements are done, then you have a final plat that's submitted to the
Correct.
county for recording.
So it was, when I had this discussion with Ryan last week, kind of an eye-opener for me, because I was looking at it just not in the chunks that it's being presented to us in, right? So like you said, with Sunrise, we got this and the 9 lots, all like the development plan, all in one bucket, basically. But it was, that's 9 lots and much smaller area. So it was just something I wanted to make sure that the council was tracking, because in the event that this were to get approved by the council, it provides the town with a lot of control over every single phase that happens and how it happens and that it has to all meet our town code. So, it's just something for us to consider along with everything else.
Ryan, I just had a question as far as, the memo that you gave us. I was just wondering, like, you put in there, what the town would be getting if we do the impact fees and such, but you didn't really put like what the cost to the town will be if we take that on, as far as what we're going to have to be putting out. you
So
know,
as far as
on the
cost to the
basis.
town, at this point, I don't see there being any costs associated with water other than
Connecting.
That would be on the developer.
Mhm.
Okay.
So
Since
all
we have
the
those two.
costs to run lines and do the improvements, that'd be on the cost of the developer.
So I think there was, in one of place in the memo, you talked about there might be the need for another PRV, so
Yeah.
that would be
Yeah,
part
that's
of
what I
the
was
thinking.
developer's
There's
cost, or would that be a town cost?
That would be part of the development.
Okay.
Did specify that third PRV, if it happens, would be the developer cost in the memo.
It'd just be part of connecting into the system.
I think you mentioned.
Adding one, I mean, the only thing I can think of is maybe at some point in 2050, when everything's fully developed, adding another water operator, but that's adding 5% more to the water system than we currently have. So it's,
Like manpower,
yeah,
because you did mention a couple of different, like, public works department,
yeah.
like employees and that
Yeah.
such.
But it's, if we're looking at, I mean, we're looking at phased, and we're looking at, I can't remember, 2048 or something, final phase out. So we're looking at 22 years now. Kind of depends if we're looking at phase one and it adds 500 feet of road, how much more time does that add to Public Works to maintain?
And that's
kind of-
asphalted, is
Yeah.
what they're gonna be doing instead of chip seal.
Yeah, and so you're looking at asphalt payments, which you're looking at adding, you're having chip seal added to your roads right now, so that would just be added on to the maintenance there, having a wear, or a course, or wear layer, or on top of the asphalt every 3 to 5 years or so.
I did see, like, it said, from Sunrise, the description of this improvement includes constructing 2 wells, booster station, and storage tank to meet subdivision demands. And it was a little over $1 million. I'm just trying to, like, I know that it's like 2048 or whatever is the idea. I think that impacts like how much money we're getting in, but then I'm trying to equate like how much money we're actually going to be putting out, because you did state that we don't have, that like, it's safe to assume that the town's existing supply and storage capacities are essentially maxed out with the current and allocated lots. So that's not including the
Right.
additional. So I'm,
So that's where that impact fee comes into.
but it's only, which one, the plant one that you mentioned?
Yeah,
Or
the 3,500 or whatever that,
a month?
no,
Oh,
that's a one-time investment fee.
Yeah, so its total is 420,000 for all the units if it came,
But a
right
tank
on
is
here.
well over.
Not
It
necessarily.
is, but we're looking at the portion of it. So we can't expect this portion of the development to pay for
Oh,
a
no,
full new tank for the whole town.
exactly, but that's what I'm saying, like, it isn't doing that, but yet we are gonna be overextended. That much
So at some
more.
point in the future, which, our tanks are aging,
Sure.
if we get this impact in here, then we can put that money towards that in the future when we do replace these tanks, and we can upsize the tanks
Mhm.
to accommodate for the additional users. So that's what that impact fee is for. It's to be put aside into a plant investment fund
Yeah,
for the future.
I guess I'm just looking at it, like, it's not really equating for what we have to accomplish for the amount that we're going to get. I'm not expecting them to pay for all of it, but I'm just thinking over the lifetime of our water system too, because they haven't invested in the water system like
Right.
the other lots have.
And that's what this investment is.
So it's only that amount of money
That's
though.
they're paying that investment into there, so that's based off of what a tank would cost and how many gallons that they'll need for that development. And what, so like, say they need 10,000 gallons for that development, we're not gonna put a 10,000 gallon tank in there, but we're gonna value what 10,000 gallons is on the typical cost for per gallon for a tank. So that's part of that investment. And the other part of that investment is the supply side. So how much supply is needed, groundwater well is additional needed for this development. And so what cost per gallon that is to develop a well,
Mhm.
and that's, say they need 100 gallons per minute for this development. It costs $3 per gallon, so they're each, for that lot, it's $3, or for that development, it's $3 or $300.
I guess I'm just seeing where they're saying that the amount is for
So
that
for
water.
that development there, I looked through that. That's not based on them doing any annexation or any sort of,
I know,
it's just them doing their own system to meet DEQ standards.
which is still what we would need to do to make sure they're getting sufficient water.
No, because we have capacities in our tanks already.
Mhm.
So we're not needing to, because we're adding, so when you're looking at DEQ and you're looking at the requirements, it depends greatly on what your average day demands are.
Mhm.
So if you're looking at a small system, your tank size are gonna be oversized for what you need. Because you're gonna look at anything serving less than 500,000 gallons per day is going to have to have your tanks be sized to your maximum day demands, plus your fire storage. But if you're serving anything over that amount, plus if you have over 2 groundwater wells, your storage capacity is 25% of your max day demands. So by adding that into our system, we're not adding in what they are going to need.
Mhm.
If they stay their own system, we're adding in just that 25% of the maximum day demands.
And that's if they keep their own well. Is that what you meant by that, stay their own system?
Yes, if it stays their own system, they don't annex, and it's developed
Okay.
without annexing, that's what they need to put in.
And we haven't determined if their well is something that we can use or not?
I don't think it's been fully developed yet. I haven't seen anything on that, but from what I've understood with looking at it, I think the initial pumping rate was at 100 gallons per minute, had a very minimal drawdown. Ben Jordan, who works for Forsgren, when this study was done, 23 or 24, I can't remember when it was, but he worked with Sunrise on the well, and he told me based off of that 100 gallons per minute drawdown and 100 gallons per minute and the drawdown on it, he anticipates it being well over 200 gallons per minute of a fully developed well.
It's not fully developed now? Or are you saying fully developed like the other,
No,
townhomes
the
and
well
everything?
being fully developed. Right now, it's
Yeah, it's not pumping, it's
It's
full
not
capacity, that's full.
Oh,
developed.
once it's fully, like
yeah.
all
Once
the
once it's online and
homes are-
ready to go and got the
Oh.
right pump and the right casing down the hole.
So that's what I'm saying, so it's not adequate at the 205 yet?
No,
It has
not
the capability of pumping over 250.
It does?
With the drawdown, what his engineering firm's done, it has the capability of pumping over 250. We are only, right now, we only tested it at 100, but with the drawdown and the supply that it has. So it will be more than adequate with serving, because 205 is what's actually, by Forest Green is actually recommended.
Mhm.
So will that be done before we annex? Or are we annexing it right now where it's not where we need it to be? Is that what we're going to do?
So right now, we're just annexing property. There's no development that we're agreeing to or
Okay.
adding into anything right at this moment.
Okay.
So The development of the well is still on the developer of the land, the owner of the land to
Get to that point.
get to those points.
And-
Okay, let me jump in here for a second. Council needs to keep in mind that there is an approved plan by the county. If it is annexed, that goes out the window,
Yeah, I know.
because then they have to meet our requirements.
Mhm.
So that may change the density of some of the places and some of the other pieces. The well then becomes part of our system, so instead of 3 wells, we would have 4 wells, which would then be filling the storage tanks. So don't mix one up with the other.
So as far as the contingencies that we will require, do we do that before the application is approved?
Ryan's memo says this is what needs to be done, one of which is the well needs to be studied and the easements and everything taken care of prior to annexation, if we annex.
And so,
Right.
So that means he hasn't.
Prior to setting a well into the system. I
and
mean, you
so-
can annex the property.
Yeah,
It's-
Right.
it's-
Property
it's-
only, yeah, that's
Right.
the key.
and
I
then,
didn't
Prior
understand
to
that.
I think
accepting
some
the
of
well.
the details, Council Merrill, that you're maybe thinking about would be, the way I understand it, part of subsequent subdivision development agreements per phase. And we just got the town attorney, we just got our attorney yesterday, so we're trying to get with him so we can understand what that would look like as far as, you know, what do we have to sign up to for this versus each phase that could potentially come after? You know, what does that look like in a written agreement so that everybody does know what we're signing up to on our side and also on the developer's side?
And that has to be done before we can even put it into a vote.
I think that it would, and again, we're waiting for advice from the new attorney. I mean, in my mind, we would at least have some sort of preliminary written agreement for this, which is the first thing we would consider to vote on. And then each one that came after, again, there would be some sort of preliminary agreement so that everybody knows what they would be signing, or maybe it gets signed before we vote. I don't really know what that part is. That's why we really need
That's right.
the
Lawyer
legal
comes in.
advice. Yeah. So, but anyway, that's,
It's gonna end up being an interesting set of negotiations between the landowner and the town and the attorneys on both sides.
Well, that's my concern, that the negotiations, and then we're supposed to start voting on this in 3 months.
Maybe
Just the
agreements can
annexation.
go up.
It's just moving the property, or the town boundary.
Yeah.
There's no voting on any agreements of any development in the property, any accepting of a well, or ownership by the town of a well. We have no right-of-ways to any of those.
Once it's annexed, though,
No,
that has changed.
You've got a,
So we'll have no
Piece of
say,
land.
so he can proceed with the counties?
no,
Yes.
now that he's in town boundaries, now he needs to follow the town's planning and zoning subdivision review.
So there'd be a permitting process
Yes.
on one,
yeah.
if we annexed it.
Mhm.
May I ask the developer a question? Would that be
Yeah,
your
sure.
plan to move forward as your phases? If we annex you in, do you have a plan to change what the county, you've already proposed at the county level? Like, if it's going out the window, if this page is going out the window, like, why would, that makes me wonder why you would want to annex
It-
in.
It may not go out the window. It kind of depends on what your planning and zoning ordinance codes are,
Mhm.
if it meets those codes.
Exactly.
And
So you're like willing to, like, you annex in at this phase, it's now up to our planning and zoning and the council,
To take
plat by
what,
plat, or
to take what
phase
the
by
developer
phase.
provides to them to
Yes.
review.
We comply to your ordinances.
Yeah.
It's a lot to digest.
well,
So
didn't
I'm
our
looking forward to
planning and
getting those.
zoning already approve this, like last?
No, no, all they did was start reviewing and agree to continue forward with the process.
No,
They
I
didn't
meant
vote on
at the
it.
beginning of last year. I thought it was brought forth to them.
No.
It was when they were planning and zoning, I think.
All right. What other questions do we have for Mr. Welling?
Is this the only, the only opinion that we're gonna get from you through this whole process? Like, this is your, not your, I mean, I know you work with us, but
No, this
like,
is just the,
This is phase
This is
one.
the
this is
preliminary.
the preliminary look at this the annexation, and then what the master plan looks like right now and what it could be. What we're gonna need to do in the future when final construction drawings are coming in for each phase. You'll have me review those to make sure they're compliant with what the town requires for their water system, and to take ownership of it and get approval on that, so.
And so I'll add, the town staff is still working on the annexation report, and then also putting together a look at what proposed revenues would be in terms of impact fees and tap fees and property taxes and sales taxes. I'm looking at it based on what the current county master plan says is the phasing, so that goes out through 2048 or 58, whatever it is. And then we're also, the town staff is also putting together what do the costs look like, so that we can then kind of look at, we know if this is gonna be a phased development, we're not getting revenues for 120 lots in the next 10 years, because it's phased beyond that, right? So what does it really look like? And then, as the roads and the infrastructure, once that starts going in, how do those costs start adding to what the town is doing, and how do they stack up? So we're trying to get all that pulled together, and we're gonna start populating a space on the town website, and we'll make sure as soon as there's a good draft of that, we get that out to the council and to the planning commission. We're still shooting for the end of the week. We said by the end of January, we try to have draft information out. So there will be some more info forthcoming as far as the costs, because Ryan gave us some kind of guardrails in a way of how we should be looking at costs for maintenance of roads and, the impact fees and things like that. So we're trying to take that information and build these cost estimates, basically.
I think the cost benefits analysis is one half of the puzzle. The other one are pros and cons,
Yes.
because they're not necessarily tied to dollars and cents.
Right,
They're
absolutely.
tied to, ordinances. They're tied to fire
Homeowners
control,
association.
fireworks,
Yeah.
all these kind of things. And I think it's important for us because there is a lot of conversation going on in the ranch with all the residents about this.
Yep.
So the better that we can just digest all the issues, I think it'll help us
Mhm.
be able to understand, well, what are the real important aspects and what may not be, maybe not inconsequential, but immaterial to at a lower degree. But at least we've addressed all those
Right.
items, or at least looked at them. So, okay.
To go along with Councilman Bitter's idea of not looking at costs, but looking at potential benefits or cons, but if this is added and there is a connection to Vista West, you have another escape route if you need to escape. That also comes with a con of potentially more traffic. I've made a comment that there'd likely be more traffic in the development from the town side than from the development side, just in the terms of how I've seen traffic in looky-loos during construction projects. It adds another source of water to the transmission line along Muddy String in case that connection through Scrub Oak needs maintenance. There's a lot of variables to look at through these.
I've seen that town staff has got a pretty good pro and con list going, so once we get our draft information out, if there are other things everyone has, we will keep populating that, because this isn't something that we're gonna have everything compiled by the end of the month. This is gonna take us probably a couple of months at least to get a more solid look at what the pros and cons are and what the costs and, benefits are.
Is there gonna be an opportunity, as they're putting that list together, are they taking, I'm sure citizens are coming in and talking or sending emails, are they taking that information,
Yeah.
putting those in that list and kind of,
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm trying to find an answer to every question, whether it's a good question or not, just
Right.
here's the answer to your question.
Mhm.
So just, here's the information.
yeah, in addition to the pro and cons, there's a frequently asked questions list that's being
Right.
compiled. So I'm sure we'll keep adding to that, and that shared document has a lot of the same
Yes.
sorts of things that we can pulling in?
I actually started a pros cons list on our
Oh, did
Google
you?
sheet
Okay.
today. So you can go out there and just add
I
your
can add that.
pros and cons in,
Okay.
so.
Okay, that's a lot. Any other questions for Ryan? I know we'll have them, more of them along the way, for sure. I just thought it would be helpful for us to try and sort through kind of the big steps in the process. You know, and if we take that first big step, then what would then be coming afterwards?
So looking at the timeline, then, I mean, we have 180 days
Mhm.
that has to be, but
Right.
where do you believe in this time frame we're gonna be?
I was, we have our planning commission meeting tomorrow, and the town clerk had put together an initial timeline, right, for when we get to that council decision. And I would like to talk to the planning commission tomorrow about adding some more time before the planning commission makes their recommendation, which means to push everything out a little further than it currently is planned, just because I don't think we are there yet with having enough information compiled.
Okay.
But again, we have till the end of May to at least get to our public hearing before the council, where the council will vote on,
Yes and no.
are we doing this part or not? So,
Yeah, because it can be extended by contract.
and, again, don't want to rush us through it. I felt it was important for us to establish a timeline early so that we weren't, you know, kind of diddling around and then not being able to get where we needed to go with the right information, so. Okay, any other questions for Ryan? All right, thank you very much. I appreciate you being here.
Yep.
All right. Okay, moving on with the agenda tonight, we have two new proposed ordinances that we would read in February if the council agrees with those. The first one, let me go with the one that is regarding the roof overhangs. That's a simpler one. And this was one that was brought forward by our building official so that it would be in compliance with the, is it the IRC or the IPC we're under now, or is it both? Whatever the new code is, we're under, the 2021, actually specifies a maximum of 24 inches for roof overhang.
My only comment on that one is in section D. You have a maximum roof overhang, but no minimum.
Okay,
Yeah, I noticed that too, and I'm thinking, okay, time out.
No overhang.
no overhang, there you go.
So where do we go for that?
Invariably, right? So, okay, let me, we'll take that back to Scott tomorrow and say, can you define this, you know, should we have a minimum? And then, of course, the maximum would be 24, which is what the code says. So maybe it's 18 as the minimum, I don't know.
Well,
But we'll get
there's
it from
also
them.
the other piece, depending on the slope of the, it can be shorter, but both of them are maximum and neither one is a minimum.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that one was easy, so that's that one. So we'll get a clarification from Scott tomorrow. The other one is an ordinance that the Planning Commission has been kicking around for a bit, and this is a proposed update to the outdoor lighting ordinance. And the changes proposed, the way it's currently done, it's in track changes, so it's not really in the format that we would use, but, and I don't even know if the council has had enough time to look at it. This might not be one we want to do in February, but if you haven't had a chance to read through it, it was mostly just to clarify the language and make it more readable. It doesn't really change any of the existing lighting standards that are in the code.
Yeah, I'd like to make a suggested change. On item D, it says total illumination may be calculated. I would suggest we change the word may to is. Otherwise, you're gonna get in a conflict of people saying, well, I can calculate it a different way.
Okay, you got that down? So it's really just the front couple of, not front, but the first 4 paragraphs that it's just trying to clarify wording. So if you get a chance to look through this, I'd like to move it forward, but if we need more time, we can always wait and not read it until March.
Well, that was the only thing I saw.
Okay. Also, we are still waiting on some input from town attorney on the short-term rental ordinance. Haven't seen that yet, have sent another reminder, but if we don't get that, then we might have to kick that one down to March as well, because we have to get those posted
It will have to
tomorrow
be
or
on the
Friday.
agenda,
Yeah,
but what happens at that point is.
right, okay, so just, again, that's why you haven't seen anything from us on that. As soon as we get it from him, we'll send it out to the rest of the council. Again, on this lighting one, I don't know if anyone has any comments other than one Councilman Ellis had. It's-
Well, I'm still trying to figure out what a .108 lux
is,
I mean,
yes.
that means nothing to me,
It's
Lux
right?
is a
lumens per
linear
meter
light.
I
square.
get it. I'm just going, I don't know how bright that is. So it's like,
Not very.
how are residents ever gonna know if they're compliant or not? And are you gonna have a Gestapo out there trying to figure out, oh, this is too bright?
We have a light meter.
Yeah, is there, this is confusing to me too. Is there a way to
Make it more,
make this dumbness up a little? I mean,
There's
make it more understood for
There's some,
somebody.
at the very end too, there's
town version.
some graphics and some examples, some of which
Yeah,
might
I
be,
understood that.
yeah, which, I was gonna say, that helped me a lot.
Yeah.
So maybe we need a little more time to digest this one, rather than trying to rush it into a first reading, but I do think a lot of the changes are good. Maybe there's some more information we can pull together about, as Councilman Bitter just said, what does .054 mean as far as how bright it is? So,
Yeah.
I believe one lux is a candlelight,
okay.
if I remember correctly.
So this came from the planning commission.
It was a long
Yeah,
time
one of the
ago.
commissioners actually wrote all these changes up and gave it to the planning commission to look at, and
Okay.
everyone said, hey, we
And they
like
understand
this, and there's a lot of interest, in general about improving our outdoor lighting ordinances, so this was seen as kind of a first step to do that.
Yeah.
But it was kind of ironic that it came up right about the same time as the street light came up, but,
I think if you put this in ChatGPT and just ask it for a dumbed down version,
Yeah.
it might come up with something that you could at least start with that says, I think I understand this now, right? What it means, right? But I don't know.
all right, well, I'll talk to the planning commission tomorrow, and we'll see if we can maybe provide some more information too about just what the outdoor illumination things
Yeah.
actually mean in terms
Yeah, I'm
of
not-
brightness.
I'm not opposed to the changing the ordinance, but make it so that anybody building here
Can read it.
can read it.
Yes,
Yeah.
and understand, right, I totally agree.
Yeah, one-
Okay.
And that's where the problem crops up.
I know, but I can't even understand what this ordinance, what I'm saying is just like, can we just, I don't wanna say scrap the whole ordinance, but
No.
come back to, why did it get to this level of
I may
so
be,
technical, like, why can't we?
yeah, I may be wrong about this, but I'll have to go look. So, and I don't know how familiar the council is with dark skies, I'm mildly
Yeah.
familiar, but that's a very
Yes?
stringent
Very-
requirement for
Yes.
outdoor lighting. And I think some of this probably came from there.
It
And-
did.
And again, you might know more, Councilman Ellis, from,
Yeah, that dates back to Greg, and we didn't call it a dark sky community, but it meets the dark sky community requirements.
okay, so that's why it was so specific.
Yep.
Okay, well, I'll try and, we'll pull some info on just dark skies as well. Just that, maybe we'll find some things in there that might help us with some of the language and
Yeah.
techie stuff that's in there, so. All right, we'll kick that one around a little bit more before we move forward with it. Next item on the agenda, Star Valley EMS, and special district. So, I wanted to bring just an update to the council about discussions have been happening on EMS in Star Valley, which, as everyone knows, Star Valley Health currently operates the EMS after it was Thane and Alpine were consolidated. And the hospital has a special district, North Star Valley Hospital District, I think it is, that collects 3 mills currently on the property taxes. And according to Star Valley Health, we've been told that those 3 mills go towards managing or maintaining the operation of the EMS services, but that it is not sufficient, it's not sustainable. And one of the problems with rural healthcare and rural EMS are the lack of volume and the distances that have to be traveled. So it's kind of an expensive proposition. So what is being kicked around and put forward, Star Valley Health asked all the towns in Star Valley to talk with their residents and their councils about forming a special district for EMS. So that would mean a new tax levy on property tax bills that ultimately could be, it would either start out as 2 mills and become 4 mills, or it would go right to being 4 mills. Do you remember exactly what that?
I believe we can start, or the county can start as 2 mills. If it goes beyond that, the county commission
Has to go
approve
with-
the extra 2.
Okay.
So. it
Or
could
was
all
that a
happen at
vote,
once.
or I can't remember what it was, but the push is, right now, to get this special district on the ballot this fall, which is a pretty hefty lift as far as timing. There's a process where the county commissioners would have to basically, and it's not a petition, but they do a resolution saying that they're gonna support this special district, and then it gets put on either the primary or the general election ballot. I just wanted to ask the council what your thoughts are on seeing another mill levy that would go towards EMS. There is another factor here, and I meant to go pull that up. There's the new federal funding that is forthcoming to Wyoming for rural healthcare and EMS, and I've forgotten what the name of the bill is. But it's a good chunk of money that's coming to Wyoming. And right now, we've heard that a lot of it, 60% of it, might get socked away in state savings, and then they'll do something else with the other 40. Is it 440 million? It's a lot of money.
450, I think.
Yeah,
450.
over the course of 5 years, so.
And that, to me, at least from the last meeting we had with Star Valley Health, was not clear on, and they don't know yet either, what the state intends to do with the part they don't save. So that's why they feel compelled to try and do something sooner, and that's where the discussion with the special district came up. So any immediate thoughts on this?
The bigger issue, based on past mill levy issues, are the rural people, not the towns, because 68% of the people in the county are in the rural areas.
In the county part, you mean, yeah, not in the towns,
Yeah, in the county.
right.
That's where so I don't know how the town's pushing it. It's gonna impact the rurals.
I'm not sure how our residents would feel about another 4 mills out of their property tax bills.
Who could we get to educate us more on that? As a town council, I would think every town council, since it's gonna be a potential ballot initiative, again, I'd like to talk to somebody that, could answer our questions.
The hospital's working on kind of an educational campaign.
Okay.
I think Dan
So
Medina,
maybe that's
the CEO,
where it is.
willing
Okay.
to come.
And yeah, they said that they would be willing to have someone come talk to the council about.
Yeah.
the-
Because I've, all of us, we've never seen a tax dollar we didn't like, right? So, yeah, I wish. But, before you jump out there, you gotta know as much as you can about the situation and what it would, what it would look like afterwards, not before.
Yeah.
Or, yeah. Anyway.
From what I understand, the biggest issue is that, like, for us, it's a 15-minute
Yep.
before the ambulance even gets here.
Yep.
If it's a heart attack, it's too late.
I think the other thing, in looking at some of the summary reports that Star Valley Health has provided, the response times have come down, but they're still,
Way up.
pretty,
They're bad.
but again, that's part of living in a rural area where you have a lot of distance to travel. Well, I'll see if we can farm out some more information to the council about this. Again, we didn't get much from the hospital. They were gonna they're working on pulling some information together, but they did offer to come and talk to the council. So if that's something you would like us to set up, we can do that for maybe our February meeting.
Yeah, I'd love it.
Okay.
Yeah. They're willing to
More
come.
info.
Yeah.
And we'll get some info out in advance so you can, have some read-aheads.
Well, that's a good meeting for the residents to attend.
Yes,
too.
the regular meetings,
Because-
yes. I mean, this is an important topic, right? There's
Yeah,
been a lot of discussion about it. And I know that our folks will probably feel strongly in maybe both directions. No one wants more taxes, but everybody wants EMS and good health care. So it's a slippery slope or a tricky slope to navigate maybe.
Yeah.
Any other questions about that? We'll work on getting that set up with Star Valley Health for February. Okay. Mr. Bell,
Yes.
waited a long time. We're to your part of the agenda. So the next item, travel and tourism grant applications, and Mr. Bell, who is the chairman of the Travel and Tourism Board, wanted to talk to us about one or two perhaps that are emerging.
I just, these council meetings go so fast, I learned to sleep in a public meeting. You have to learn how to sleep with your eyes open. Trump hasn't learned how to do that yet. I just wanted to bring you up to date. We had what I thought was a light agenda in our meeting last week, and it ended up being a busy day. A couple of things were batted around that I wanted to take the council's temperature on. The first one was the idea of doing some town merchandising. We're not allowed to make a profit on stuff like that, but we are allowed to sell stuff, logo wear and things like that. But I didn't want to get too far down the path of doing any of this without coming to you guys, because there's significant time commitment involved, some of that being staff, some of it probably being a committee of some kind to manage it. There's a certain amount of accounting that has to go on. We're dealing with the money. The other side of that is that it's could be an opportunity for a fair amount of very positive public exposure through items that have Star Valley Ranch unique logo on it of some kind. And I just kind of wanted to take your temperature on this before we spend a lot of time drilling into the details. Obviously, for any requests for funds, we would come back and ask you directly, and I'm not making a request for funds right now. This is only an exploratory conversation. The second thing that I wanted to tell you about, we had two applications, grant applications, from fairly large-scale events. Neither application they had not filled out their application yet, but they came directly to the board to talk to us about the events that they have on the calendar. The first one is the Heroes Wall that is coming through. It's a replica of the Vietnam Memorial, and it's coming through in July.
The wall that heals?
Yes, it's called the Wall That Heals. That's the event. And it's a self-contained event that moves around the country. And it's coming in July. They'll start at what used to be KJ's and come up the road with a big motorcade and take it to Afton, where it'll be stationed at the middle school for several days. And they're anticipating thousands of people coming to visit the memorial, many of whom would be veterans, of course. So they're going to want, their initial request is for $5,000. They have not yet filled out an application. I thought we encouraged them vigorously to get an application to me so we could meet again and get something in front of the council quickly so they would know. But as of this evening, I've not received a grant application from them, so I guess I'll call them up and see what's going on.
And is that from the?
It's from an organizing committee for the event,
Okay,
based in Afton.
okay, so it's from the local?
Yes,
committee,
they
okay.
need a total, I think they said $250,000
Oh, golly, wow, okay,
over the course of the event. It's a big deal.
okay,
So our little contribution would help. But I'm still waiting for the ask.
okay.
So I'll reemphasize to them that there's some urgency since this event is for July.
Okay.
The second event, and I wanted to take your temperature about that event. We supported it vigorously and would write a strong recommendation to the council for this event, should they eventually apply. The second event is for a snowmobile competition in 2027, isn't it? Yeah. And the name of the event escapes me, but it's pretty much a countywide event as well. Bob King from the county attended our meeting. He's the county's tourism director. And they want an ask too, but they're not quite as far along as the Healing Wall event, so I don't know more about that. Point being that you can expect those grant applications, hopefully, to come through in the next month or two.
Would the snowmobile competition be in Acton or where?
She was specific stating it was not a competition, it was just a big
It's a,
meeting.
yeah, it's more
A
like
gathering.
more like a rendezvous.
So it's not like the hill climb
Yeah.
in Grover Park or whatever, so.
Sturgis.
Yeah,
Sturgis for
Sturgis
snowmobiles.
Sturgis on skis.
Is it the
So,
Wyoming Snowmobile Association?
Pardon me?
Is it the Wyoming Snowmobile
That's a
Association?
funnier name.
No,
Bailey
it's
Clark?
not. It may be a branch of them, but it was not
I
the
was
same.
gonna say, you might know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Walked out of the house and left my notebook, so. But anyway, assuming that they apply, it'll be coming to you in the near future. With respect to the merchandising, I guess my question for the council is, do you mind us moving ahead on this? Is this something you don't want to deal with? You got too much else on your plate? There are 1,000, you're not going to offend me if you say you've got too much on your plate. I don't think you guys will have to do much work, but you may have to make some decisions about things like logos, some funding requests. We'll need startup money, and that sort of thing. And this is an internal project. It's not being sponsored by anybody from outside
So
this room.
is the idea that some designs or logos and things would be done for hats or shirts or
Yeah.
whatever, and then they would come to the council for us to go, yes, we like this one?
Well,
Or,
that's one option.
I mean, didn't know
I-
exactly what was discussed.
We have several ideas, and I guess we'll have to talk about exactly, my guess is we'll probably choose our top three, and let you
Okay.
guys
Yeah.
do your top
Okay.
three
And I-
and see where we meet.
Would they probably would not necessarily incorporate the town logo, the other things?
So it's a different logo.
Okay, gotcha, not the seal, I
It's
should
just
say,
sort of a
yeah.
recreational logo.
Okay,
We would anticipate having some sort of, and I hesitate to call it a store, but these things would need to be sold probably here in town hall by town staff, and I've not had an opportunity to talk to Trevor yet. I'm sure he's sitting over here throwing.
gnashing his teeth.
But,
But we can also use them for giveaways at
sure,
different things.
you can do anything you want.
Because our cost is, if
Your
we're
cost is-
replenishing the cost, then, at cost,
your cost
we're
is your
keeping
cost.
the pool of money of it.
Right, it'd go right back into travel and tourism.
So you could even subsidize it 100%.
And it falls well within the legislative mandates of what that money is to use for
Yes.
promotion and so forth.
Quick point, when Alpine first did this,
Mhm.
they gave them away.
Yep. I've got an alpine hat,
Wow,
so
I'm impressed.
I walked in and they gave me an hat. It was amazing.
Well, we
But,
might do that
but
too.
again, I think it's a good idea.
I'm
asking
not
for
hearing
input.
anybody say, if you do this, I will.
I would like to, yeah, I think it's a good idea, and I'd like to see more. Does the council have any opposition?
And a proposal or something to.
I'm sorry?
A proposal or something.
Yeah,
to
we'll
look
do
at.
some more. Our board will look into it a little bit more and come up with more specific proposal for you. I even sort of see a committee in the future. I don't know if our board is really what we want to do or what we're here for, but at least we're willing to get it started.
I think it's a good
I'm just
idea.
curious, and I've dealt with merchandise, and I sit on a lot of merchandise that I've ordered. So there's storage, but if you're pointing it more at a promotional, where you're giving things away, and so instead of people buying it, I can see that, especially crossing the lines of, I don't know how we would have a store that's abiding by the travel and tourism ways
Doing
of.
both, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think.
Why would I buy it
promotion-
if you'll give me one?
There's just less, I would think, financially to look at if we're giving things away. We don't have to have our.
Well, I think
town.
that's a decision that needs to be made, is whether or not
Yeah.
we want to do promotion or do we want to do sales.
Right.
Doesn't make much sense to do a combination of both. So, okay, that's
Yeah.
my spiel. Thank you.
Definitely like to see more. So, thank you. Okay, moving on. Matters from the mayor and council. Councilman Bitter, anything else?
No.
Okay, Councilman Merrill.
I do. I just wanted to bring up from what Trevor had earlier said, if doing my job is interfering, that is not the purpose of what I'm doing. But I also do not work for you or for the mayor. I work for my constituents. And it is in town code, which overrides any policy and procedure that you may have, that I'm able to actually gather information from our treasurer. So if that is interpreted as interfering in day-to-day, that is not the point to what I was trying to do. I was trying to get information so I can do my job as well for the citizens of this town. And if, just so it is on the record, if our SMO is intimidated by anything I asked him, by a citation he wrote, because it was misunderstood by the constituent, and that's what I was trying to get an answer for, I would appreciate you facilitating a meeting between the three of us so that the air can be cleared for him. Because obviously, I can't threaten his job alone. He's appointed, so he would need 3 votes on our council to actually terminate him. I would also let the citizens know that Blessing Box is planning on joining forces with the Pizza Shack so that we have a drop-off site for dried goods for a promotion with them on February 12th.
Okay, anything else? No. Councilman Ellis, anything?
Yes, I do. Since I am the liaison to the roads board right now, and we are short 2 members, I would like to propose that Mike Altman and Larry Johnson's be added to the road board as of this meeting, because our next meeting, the roads board, is a week from tonight. And Mike Altman has extensive roads experience. He is currently over nationally all BLM roads and road development. And Larry Johnson has extensive background in runoff and water usage. And we could use both of those on the roads board as soon as possible. So if we can officially do it on the next meeting, but unofficially make them members tonight so I can
Just
Get
have like
them
an
moving.
organizational sort of meeting, okay.
get an organizational meeting on the 3rd and get them involved in the grant process, where we're going with the roads, and get something moving there.
Okay, sound like good prospects. So we'll make sure town clerk's got a note to put those on the agenda for February. Anything else?
That'll do it.
I did ask you, Councilman Tolson. I
No,
didn't. I did not, I'm so
it's
sorry.
No, I just,
Councilman Tolson, what do you
I had
have?
a great meeting with the NRB, and I just really
Oh, good.
appreciate it. I'm bummed that I left travel and tourism, but I am really looking forward to that relationship with the NRB, so.
Excellent. Do some good, we have some good boards. All right. Anything else? Good? Okay. The only thing I have, I just do want to, for all the council, remind everyone that there are codes of conduct and rules of decorum that we should conduct ourselves with. And I will ask that if you do need to interact with the town staff, please work through the town administrator. Keep him informed. It helps him do his job better. And with that, could I get a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
And a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned at 7:29. Thank